So yesterday I watched two films from sort of the golden age of French cinema, and honestly, I enjoyed them a lot more than I was expecting based on the plot synopsis of both films. So you can always trust that. The first one is 1952's Fanfan la Tulipe. It's one of the most popular films in all of French cinema. To this day, Fanfan la Tulipe is one of the he's like I think the equivalent of like our Robin Hood or Indiana Jones or something, where they just love him. And I guess Robin Hood was originally British, so let's go with Indiana Jones. He's their Indiana Jones. And this was the first iteration of this story. It stars Gerard Philippe, who would become a huge star in France before unfortunately dying at the age of 36 from liver cancer, which is like major bummer. Um, this film starts out so French. It is a couple of young people rolling around in the hay, and when the woman gets caught, she's a teenager. Fanfan's reaction to like the way she's getting in trouble for like making out, about to be more than making out, is it's just so um how I picture like French sexuality, like to a T. And the film just keeps going, but it's never misogynistic in its depiction of Fanfan's utter love of women. He's just this charming man who loves women, and he could charm me. He charmed me, and he's been dead for 60 years. Um, Basically, it's set during the reign of Louis XV, and Fanfan is a sort of peasant who works his way up through the army until eventually he is uh, following his destiny based on who a fortune teller told him he was going to marry. His destiny being everyone's destiny, Gina Lollobrigida, who is one of the great, buxom actresses from this era, but who always brought a great emotional depth to her characters. And so this is a film that is just a swashbuckling romantic farce, and it never stops being entertaining. It never stops being funny. There's a moment in it where they're trying to Fanfan's about to get hung, and he and the guy, and they're just like dealing with it, and then, and then the tree branch breaks. It causes just utter chaos, and the guy's like, "Is it done?" It's so funny. You have to watch it. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and I just loved watching Gerard Philippe be Fanfan. He was so charming and breezy, and never once felt like gross or manipulative. He was just one of those guys that you're just like, yeah, I get it. I get the charm. And then Gina brings, this smart sassiness to her role, and it's just so much fun. I don't even know. I did not expect to love it as much as I did, and now it's like maybe my favorite thing I've watched at least all week. I mean, okay, it's Tuesday, but I just really loved it. It's gonna be one of my favorite French films I think ever. Um, Complete opposite of French New Wave. Just light, breezy fun, and it made me laugh so much, and I really needed a good laugh. So it was a good time to watch it. The next one I watched was also a comedy from a little bit earlier. This is 1935, and it's from Jacques Feyder, who had been making films since the early silent era. He made that version of Lantide that I really enjoyed from Pordenone, and he made films for decades. And this film, another one where you're like, from the plot, you're like, I'm not gonna like this, and then it was great. It's called Carnival in Flanders, and so I was trying to look up what Flanders really is. Flanders is sort of kind of where Belgium is now, but was owned. It has so many different like kingdoms that have owned it that I got confused, and I feel like I need to take an entire semester on the history of Flanders. But basically, it's set in the 1600s in Flanders, and it's during a war where Spain is invading various villages, and they're in the midst of trying to set up a carnival when they discover that the Spanish troops are about to come into their town, and the men are like, we don't want to deal with this, and so the head of the town is going to pretend, he thinks they should all pretend they're dead. And, and they'll pretend that they're dead, and then the soldiers will leave them alone. And the wife is like, no, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So her husband pretends to be dead. He has to pretend to be a corpse while she is trying to show these Spanish soldiers a good time so that they won't rape and pillage their town. And those are some pretty high stakes. And yet it's, again, very funny. And the women take charge, and they're just like, men are dumb, and we're going to do it our way, and we're everything's going to be fine. And with this main woman, she manages to not only make sure her town is not raped and pillaged by the Spanish, but also out manipulate her husband, who's trying to marry off her daughter into a utterly loveless marriage, into a soon to be good marriage, but at the very least a marriage of true love. And so it's just much like Fanfan la Tulipe. It is funny from start to finish. It is super raunchy. There's this one recurring scene where this guy keeps having women visit him, and he's supposed to be doing other things, but then like they shut the windows because they're doing other things. And I was like, what? So it was just funny and unexpected and raunchy in a good way, and inspired from the looks, inspired by a lot of the Flemish painters of that era with those big collars and the giant skirts. And there's another sequence that's really funny where a guy is trying to just take a bath, and this woman's trying to compare his undergarment lace to her undergarment lace, but he's not having it. He's just like, I just want to take a bath. Leave me alone. And the woman's like, oh, her flirting was totally, curtailed. It's just these two unexpectedly fun, entertaining from start to finish films. I remember something else I wanted to say about Fanfan la Tulipe. Fanfan la Tulipe is this kind of adventure film that we don't have anymore per se. We don't really have, adventures in the Middle Ages, right? But from start to finish, it felt like a modern day action film. But instead of horses and the army or whatever, it's cars and cops, and it could very well have been a film in the Fast and Furious franchise, but instead it was set in, King Louis XV. But it was that entertaining and light and breezy and fun. So these were great films. I'm really glad I found them. I'm really glad I watched them. They're on Criterion Channel right now, but they're also available from Criterion on DVD, so you can check them out. I think you might be able to rent at least Fanfan on. No, okay, they're both on discs. So the only way to stream them right now is on Criterion Channel, but you can get them on disc, and I recommend it. They were delightful and just surprisingly fun. Fanfan la Tulipe is from 1952. It's directed by Christian-Jaque. And Carnival in Flanders is from 1935, and it was directed by Jacques Feyder. And I recommend both films very, very much.